Hello again, YouTube. This is Brett from agentsdiscovery.com. In today's video, I figured while I was making a lot of these workflows for campaigns that Jessica is calling on, I would do it live right here and kind of show everybody how workflows in the SynthFlow platform look and how to configure them. It kind of gets you an idea of how I'm doing them for my outbound campaigns. Now, my outbound campaigns are with an AI agent hosted in SynthFlow, and I'm using the SynthFlow workflow builder. And I'm using a Google spreadsheet, and I have roughly 1,200 to 1,500 phone numbers, and I'm trying to call about 1,500 phone numbers a day, all while capturing and updating the spreadsheet as we call them every single day. The most important value that I'm updating the spreadsheet is status, and that's basically so people can say, don't call me back, and everything else is just gravy on top of that if they want to actually, book with me and see if Agents Discovery and this whole voice agents thing can help. So what you're looking at is the SynthFlow Workflow Builder screen right here. This is the workflow tabs. You just click on this, and here's all my workflows. Most of these are campaigns that are going outbound calls based on spreadsheets that I have full of numbers. And those phone numbers, I can share how I'm getting phone numbers. If that's of interest, let me know in the comments. Or if people ask me in general, like in the school communities or in LinkedIn or whatever, I can do that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create another outbound campaign. And so this is how I'm doing it. So we're going to create from scratch. Going to name it. They all have the same name. Try to keep it consistent and as easy as possible to understand what I'm looking at when I'm reading from the long list. And this will give you an idea of how long it takes. I like this inflow workflow builder. I'm sure NAN, make.com, those are all better, but I try to keep as few pieces and parts as possible moving together, different platforms, try to keep them as few as possible, make it as simple as possible. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start this workflow with a schedule. All right, and then we're going to schedule every day. Now, every day at 9 a.m. in New York Eastern Time, every day at so this is what this is doing is a schedule. It's going to start the flow, and then every day at 9 Eastern Time, this is going to start. It's going to kick off. From here, we're going to go to Google Sheets, and we're going to find rows. And then if you're going to create connections, you can either create a new connection or use a list of the ones you already have. Already have several. Creating connections is very straightforward. I'm not going to show that here. So I'm going to connection I have. It's called Red Applied. And I'm going to select the spreadsheet. The Jessica campaign is what I call the sheet. And then we're looking for the actual sheet. So, and that's this again, this is why I name these things a certain way. If you look up at the top left here, I named it Roswell. And so I'm looking for the Roswell businesses sheet here. Again, each one of these sheets in the spreadsheet have around 100 phone numbers, more or less. Could be 98 to 150. I'm not real sure. Okay, and so so next we move on in the search, find rows. Name of the column we're going to search in. We're going to look for status. And we're going to look for the status of call. In my spreadsheet, I'll drag that over here. Here's, if it lets me. There's so many snapping features now. Okay, so in my spreadsheet, all of column D has a status of call, and that's what we're going to search here. Get the spreadsheet out of here. It's a bit of a trick. Yep, snapped all over the place. All right, so we're looking for a search value again in the spreadsheet of call. We're going to do an exact match, and in the column status, exact match search for call, and we're going to start the On the starting row, we're going to start on row 2 because our sheet has the headers. And we're going to search 200 rows. Again, that's to make sure that we get all of the sheet contents searched. And I know there's no more than 200 rows in each individual sheets. The most I think I've ever seen is 150. Okay, and then we're going to continue to retry on failure, and then we're going to test the step. Okay, and then so it looks like this sheet has 97 in it. 97 phone numbers that Jessica's going to call. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next step. You just hit this plus button. So once we find all the rows in the spreadsheet, we get a loop on all the rows. So we have a loop on items. Okay. And the items we're going to loop on are the find rows. Because again, we're finding the rows that we did the search on, and that search being status of call, an exact status of call. And that's each individual row in the spreadsheet. And we're going to loop at them. We're going to loop one at a time so that we make sure that each row is an independent call, and each independent call in a row gets its data updated correctly and per column as the agent calls the person, and maybe there's a conversation that occurs, and then data is updated. And I have all these different columns for different data that will update later on. So now we're going to loop on items, find rows, and we're going to test a step. It's important to test each step as you move down the workflow builder because it's sequential. Everything below it needs the thing above it, and things like that. So now that we've looped on items, we should get the first item in the row. So in this call list has never been used. So we got row 2. That's the first row in the spreadsheet, and the name of the company and the phone number and the website, and it looks like we got a Facebook profile here too. It's pretty cool. Okay, so that's good. Now from here, we're going to go to make a phone call. Okay, make a phone call. And here in SynthFlow, you're going to find your API keys. I'm not going to show how to do that here. And then you're going to select your assistant. And then, so this is important. As you can see, I have 3 assistants here. 2 of them have the same name. And that's where I go back to my naming convention. It's very important on the way you name everything and everything you built, because you never know when some little list reference another one. So if I had 2 Jessicas here, that would make it confusing. So you're going to want a Jessica inbound and just a Jessica. So this is not an inbound call. This is Jessica calling out. So I'm not going to select Jessica inbound. You get the idea. Okay, the phone number, I'm only calling the +1 country code. That's the United States. We're going to remove the default value, and we're going to move into the loop on items. We're going to items, and then we're going to expand values, and then you can see all the data here. And this is the first row in the spreadsheet from the loop on items. I got 2 columns here for phone number. I got one with dashes, one without. I'm going to use the one without, and I'm going to click insert. And then the phone number, we're going to that's how we add the phone number to get 1 call at a time on the loop. Now, recipient's name, I can't remember what I did here, so I have to go back to my kind of template. Okay, I remember what I did. So the recipient's name here, we're going to loop on items, and we're just going to say this. That's the name of the company. And I think that's all I did here. I can't remember. Yeah, okay, so I have a custom variable here. I'm going to stick with this for now. I don't know how well this is working, but I'm going to continue to try and use it. Actually, no, I'm going to split test this. I'm going to get rid of this variable name. I'm not going to use it anymore. I'm just going to do the number and the name and see how that works out without making custom variables. I don't want to make a greeting. I'm not going to add a prompt. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do here. So now we got a phone call, and now we can test it during the call. We're going to make a call, or during the call, during this screen share, I'm going to make a call. Again, we have to do that to make sure that every step after it works as we need it to. And now we're going to move on to the next step. The next step is wait for delay. I think it's called delay. Yep, delay 4. We're gonna do minutes, and I always do 4 minutes. Do the test step, make sure it works. And the reason I delay for 4 minutes is each phone call is a row in a spreadsheet, and it takes a certain amount of time, usually less than 5 minutes, to complete a phone call. And that phone call must be finished to make sure each record is complete. There may be a better way to do it than that. I don't know. That's how I do it. Sorry for my child. She just woke up and it's extremely loud. I might have to re-record that. We'll see. Re-record this video. We'll see. It's hard to get quiet time with a 3-year-old. Okay, the next part the next step in this after we've done the 4 minute delay is we're gonna send a GET request, and we're going to use the method GET, and we're going to do we're gonna hit the Synthflow API endpoint itself. That's where this URL come from. And it's very important to do a limit of 1. That limit of 1 means that every API request is only going to send the most recent call made by the agent in this workflow. That way we only get information from 1 call instead of 50 calls. So that limit is very important. Okay. And then now we're going to move on to headers. I'm just going to go back and forth and copy this stuff a little bit. So headers, we need authorization. And then we need our API key. This took me a very long time to get this header authorization key value pair correct. I struggled for a long time with that, so hopefully that can help anybody. If you need to, pause the video and stare at that for a little while. I know it took me way longer than it should to figure that out. All right, so in the query parameters, we're going to add those. We get our key and then our value pair. All right, and then from here, we're going to retry on failure. So we have a setting that says retry on failure. Okay, now we're going to test the step. Now hopefully that call is completed and we got enough information about the first call in the list of my spreadsheet that we can get data back. Okay, so now we get what we're looking for right here is a status of 200 okay. The call is good. That means we can use it later. And so now for the last step in this workflow, and that's a Google Sheet update. We're going to update rows in the spreadsheet. So to update the rows in the spreadsheet, looks like this. We're going to go to the connection. Again, you can name those, call them whatever you want. You're going to go to the spreadsheet, Jessica Campaigns. Again, going back to I'm really beating this horse to death, naming things to where it's easier, naming everything in a certain way and deliberately. That way, once you're referencing something else, it reminds you of what you're doing. I do so many of these things all the time that I forget where I'm at in these long lists. So in that long list being which campaign I'm in, what's the name of the businesses, where I get lost. So I name everything very deliberately. All right, so we got the spreadsheet. Now we're going to go find the sheet. And now because I named it Roswell, I know I can look for this list called Roswell Businesses. And then in the row number, we're going to use the items in row, this row number right here. So we're going to select the loop that occurred up here. And then we're going to loop on the row that we're currently on. And that row is 2 because this is the first time the sheet's been used. Okay. Now we're going to go into the toggle this little, we have headers in the row. In the spreadsheet, these are the headers, company name, phone number, only status. And so we're going to start mapping these. Now, the most important one for me is the do not call. And so we're going to start with that one. Hopefully we can get some data back from the call on our HTTP request. So I'm going to maximize this, get rid of the loop on items, and then here is the send request for the call data, and we're going to go to the body, response, the calls, the call number, the row number, and the number of calls, and executed actions. So this is unfortunate that we can't show this during the call because I don't have enough information from the call. This is kind of one thing I don't like about the workflow builder is if the call didn't execute any actions, then I can't map anything. So what you would do here is you would expand executed actions, you would find the fields, and I'll show what that looks like in this other workflow that's been running for a while, and so it has the required data. So in the update rows section, it's going to load. Okay, and so now we're going to look for status, and then, so like if we want to update the status, we would go back to the HTTP request. Again, we're updating a row in a spreadsheet called status. We'll get the call data back in this part of the workflow, and then we go to response, and we go to calls, and we go to calls, and then we go to executed actions. Executed actions are the variables that the agent is capturing during the call. I'm not going to go into that. That's just how prompting works in SynthFlow. And so what we're looking for is status. So we're going to look for info structure status. We're going to expand that, and then it's very important that this is a little confusing about naming conventions, but with all your info extractors, you're going to have what's called a return value, and you have to expand that, and then you're going to hit insert here, status called. So that's very important. You can get tripped up on that. That's easy to mess up and get wrong, but and that's it. So that's how I'm handling it. And again, the once you have that mapping done, we're going to minimize that, and then you're going to hit publish. And again, this workflow is pretty simple. This is how I do my outbound campaigns. So every day we're going to find rows that have a status of call, and then we're going to loop on those rows one at a time, and we're going to make a call. We're going to wait for 4 minutes. We're going to send a request to get call data, and then we're going to update rows in a spreadsheet. And those rows can be either names, emails, the status one is for me is the most important, or anything you want to capture during a call and add to your CRM or spreadsheets. I'm just using spreadsheets because I don't have a ton of data yet, and I don't have a good reason to use a CRM yet. But anyways, we're going to keep looping, and this will continue until the entire spreadsheet is gone through and Jessica's called all the numbers. That's my workflow. That's what it looks like in SynthFlow, and that's about how long it takes. Don't forget to hit publish. Some other things, we got runs. This hasn't happened yet, so there's no runs and versioning. So again, that's all the workflows, and then we're going to come back. We're going to close this now. We're going to hit refresh on the top one we just made, and we're going to get little icons of all the different nodes that are involved in the workflow, and kind of where they're at from left to right in the workflow. And that's it. That's how I do my outbound campaign calls um, in SynthFlow, and that's the workflow builder. If you have any questions, don't forget to add them in the comments or schedule time with me with Jessica. You can actually call Jessica. I'll leave her number in this video, and you can book some time with me. You can go over whatever you want to talk about related to voice agents and maybe how I can help. So thanks for watching, and I hope that helps.